Hello guys, I'm Sammy and today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 4 and cheating on the PlayStation 4. Is it possible? How can it be done? What are the methods applied? And so on. So, first off, yes, it is possible to cheat on the PlayStation 4, but bear with me because it's not as easy as on other platforms. A lot of people ask me, Sammy, why is it so incredibly easy to get aimbots and wall hacks and whatever bots on the computer, and why is it so much harder to get that kind of stuff for my PlayStation 4? Good question, I say. Good question. Now, the first issue that we have here with the PlayStation 4 is that this is a console. This is a gaming console. In recent years, PlayStations have also become a little bit, gaming and maybe a little bit of TV and a little bit of DVD player or whatever. Who still uses DVD? I don't know. Anyways, issue being, the PC has been created as a multi-tool that can do your taxes, that can edit cat pictures, that can do cat videos, editing or whatever. It can do a lot of things, all right? So basically, you're allowed to run software on the Windows PC that Microsoft hasn't authorized you to run, basically. They don't need to authorize you to run anything. On the PlayStation 4, that's different. You're essentially only allowed to run software that Sony has authorized to be run on that system. And it's a closed system. You don't get to mod it. You don't get to install a custom firmware or whatever. It's a very hard to crack and closed system. Now, why is it a closed system? How is it closed? Now, we have to get into something that's a little bit boring. It's called script signing. Basically, this means that the code that you run on your PS4 is ensured to be authorized by Sony by a key. All right. Basically, all the code that you run on your PS4, every game, every whatever, every application has some little hash included in it that corresponds to a private key that only Sony knows. Therefore, they're able to verify that anything you run on your PlayStation has been authorized by them and has not been tampered. And that's very key. This key ensures that the software has not been tampered with. Now, in online games, you're online constantly, so they're constantly able to verify that your code has not been tampered with, which makes cheating very, very hard. Now, in the past, this has happened with certain consoles and so on, that people actually got hold of the private key and were basically able to run anything. And in the recent past with the PS4, that has been an exploit where somebody actually managed to run a Game Boy emulator on a PlayStation 4. However, that was a exploit, which exploit basically implies that it was a bug that Sony then patched pretty quickly, so it's not usable anymore, sadly. So basically, the PS4 was hacked for a few weeks, and then it wasn't hacked anymore. So that's the main issue. However, as I've said, there are ways to cheat on the PS4. So basically, you can't exactly do the same things as on PC yet, okay? Later in its life cycle, maybe it will be possible. Maybe people will find a way around the encryption keys. Who knows? However, at the moment, the way to cheat on the PS4 is something that is a little bit complicated, but bear with me, all right? Basically, it's called packet editing, right? All right, so on this side, you have, basically, this is your game running on your PlayStation 4. This is a PC, but it doesn't matter. It's the same concept that's at work here, right? And basically, that is sending data to a server. Let's just say this is the server, whatever. That's a server, okay? This box right here. Just imagine that being a server. That's basically that's a computer, basically, okay? So this is a client in an online game that is basically communicating with the game server, okay? Data is being sent to the server and to the client, all right? Now, the thing is, not everything in an online game, like for example Call of Duty or whatever you're playing, Battlefield, and so on. Like there's a lot of online games, and that's usually those are the games that people want to use aimbots and hacks in because they're competitive. You're playing against other people, and you want to be the best. So that's just generally how it works. So data is being sent from the client to the server. Good. All right. Now, what packet editing does is it basically adds an instance between the server and you, okay? And this would be the proxy, okay? This would just, let's say this is the proxy, P-R-O, whatever. This is a proxy, okay? So this is usually a computer, okay? So here's your PS4. It sends data to the proxy, and the proxy then sends it to the server. The server sends data to the proxy, and the proxy then sends it to your client. Now, here's a cool thing. The proxy is then able to edit the data as it comes in from your PlayStation 4 and is sent to the server. So this is very key. Now, what this allows you to do is to edit certain things, like that are processed on your console. For example, your position, right? Let's say the server tells you that somebody is shooting in your general direction in a online shooter. Let's just make a crosshair here, right? Let's say somebody's shooting at you, okay? Somebody's shooting at you. The proxy sees, oh, somebody's shooting at me. It notices that the data it's being sent here would mean that I'm gonna get hit. So instead, what it does, it sends the server false information about your location, for example, so that you don't get hit by that shot. All right? And it very much, the efficiency of such cheats very much depends on the proxy and how sophisticated it is, and how much of the data is actually processed on the client, the game client on your PlayStation 4. But it can generally be very, very powerful. It is even possible to get aimbots working this way. They won't work exactly the same way as they do on a PC, all right? But they will still, it's still theoretically possible. Now, it hasn't been done very often. Usually, these cheats are more along the lines of semi-god modes that use teleporting exploits and so on in order to just avoid damage in general, which is more fun and so on. But there's a lot of possibilities with that. Now, later on in the life cycle of, let's just get rid of this. Later on in the life cycle of games of a console, usually what happens is that the console will be hacked one way or another. It's kind of like piracy, right? There's a new protection against piracy. I don't know, Securum 7,000,000 whatever. But it eventually gets hacked by somebody, right? So, and that's the same with consoles. Like, if it's far enough into the life cycle of a console, usually it gets hacked in one way or another, and people are able to run unsigned code in one way or another. It's just it's bound to happen at some point. Like at some point, it usually happens. It has happened with a lot of consoles in the past, homebrew consoles and so on. Like I'm pretty confident that it's gonna happen for the PlayStation 4 as well. At the moment, at this point, 2016, 2017 is basically the end of 2016 now. It has not happened yet. There have been some minor exploits where somebody has been able to temporarily exploit the console into running unsigned code, but that was only for a short time. Now, with exploits, the thing is, they're bugs, basically, right? And my guess would be that there's going to be more of these exploits because that's how software works. Like, there's always bugs in it, and hackers will find some exploits there. I do believe there will be more of these exploits. The problem about exploits is that as soon as an exploit goes public, all right, as soon as a lot of people know about a bug, what's gonna happen is that Sony's gonna look into it and it's gonna get patched pretty quickly. All right. So the only way to keep an exploit working if one finds one is to not tell anybody about it. All right. So my guess is at this point, I have no proof of that, but my guess would be that there is probably people that are able to run unsigned code on the PlayStation 4, um, but they don't want the exploit to get public and patched because then they aren't able to use it. And my guess would be that they're probably selling their services for a lot of money to some rich people. So that's usually what happens. That's usually what happens. It's like a really huge black market. A lot of shooters especially are peer-to-peer hosts, which means if you have a hacked console, you can basically give people god modes and so on. You can make them invisible. You can do pretty much anything. Like it's called a modded or hacked lobby. It's every if you have a hack console and you know your IT, you know your coding, you can actually set that up, and then people are selling those modded lobbies, their services to specific people that pay for that stuff. And there's always rich people that would pay $100 an hour to have a god mode in Call of Duty or whatever. Like these, like rich kids exist, and yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of hackers out there that have gotten filthy rich off of unexplored or unknown exploits. Anyways, so those are my 5 cents. Just to sum up, it's possible. It's possible. It's hard to run unsigned code. It'll eventually happen, but at the moment it's almost impossible. That might change in the future. The only way to really do it is either to use an exploit or to use packet editing, which requires a PC basically. And if you have a PC, you might as well just cheat on PC, but it's theoretically possible. All right. Anyways, so that's cheating on PlayStation 4. I hope you guys have learned something. And thanks, you guys, for watching. See ya.